There we go.
Okay, yeah, so it's recording. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And right now I have a great future champion, Joey Borrero. I think you're in the 147 weight class division.
Yes, sir. Just moved up to 147.
Oh wow. So how's training going for you, my brother?
It's going good. I've stepped back a little bit for the past couple of months. Just after the fight that I had scheduled on December 20th on in Dubai, on
Yeah,
the fight before Christmas card. It something ended up happening.
December
So
20th.
we just ended up being rescheduled. They're talking about maybe July, June. So we'll see. I'm waiting on that contract still.
Oh, okay. June or July. It's not nothing set in stone yet, right?
Yeah, nothing set in stone until they send the contract over. So
No opponent, no rival yet.
no,
No.
same opponent, same opponent. It would be for the Misfit World Title at 147. So
Oh, okay. So it's for a world title. It's not the WBA, right?
no, it's the Misfit World Title. That's what
Yes.
it's called.
Okay, and that's the opponent that you was originally gonna fight in December, but fell through.
Yep, David Lopez, correct.
David Lopez. And what is his record?
I believe he's 10-7 now. 10, 10 wins and 7 KOs, or 8-7, something like that.
And I just want to say before we proceed, like I really appreciate you taking the time to be on my show. It's an honor to have you. I want to see one of your fights, like a full fight of yours. I see clips, but I never saw a full fight. And I've heard a lot of great things about you. And you're Felix Trinidad's nephew, which is my favorite fighter of all time. And it's an honor to have you. And the last time I interviewed you was in Spanish, and it was a great interview. And I figured you know how to speak multiple languages.
Yeah.
What I saw in some interviews, previous interviews, which is awesome. And you're a man of God, and I respect that. And the last time you were supposed to fight October 17th in Colombia, I don't really know what the details are about
Yep.
that. What happened, or if you want.
So it was a sketchy little situation. I ended up going down there. We ended up fighting. I was supposed to fight for a WBA title. That's when they let us know that WBA is no longer recognized by BoxRec. So they tried to pull a fast one on us when we were over there. Since we were already in Colombia, we decided, you know what, let's take the fight. I'm already here. So in the middle of the fight, the first round, opponent landed a big shot, caught me, didn't drop me or nothing, but definitely dazed me. But I was still good to keep going. Second round, I dominated. Third round, I was letting the dude offload so that I can basically reset. He wasn't really touching me with anything or hurting me or anything like that. And but before the third round came, in the second round, the ref came to the corner and asked us for $500. And we were like, what the heck? Like, what type of ref is this? What type of situation is going on? So they went, they asked us for $500 on the corner. We said no, like we're here to fight, like what are you talking about? So third round comes in, and then we go. I get on the defense. I'm moving, letting the dude get tired so I can come back. Right when I'm about to throw, like right, literally, and I was throwing like also during the exchanges, but right as I'm getting ready to throw right hand, the ref comes and stops the fight, and I'm like, what the heck? So then I get upset. I start arguing with my own corner and start arguing with the other people. Like, hey, what's going on? Like, there's no reason for the fight to be stopped, this and that. So we just ended up getting screwed going to Colombia. For a while, we fought it with BoxRec. BoxRec was investigating it supposedly. And then we ended up sending all the evidence, everything, but they ended up basically saying that it was a fair fight, but yet they have it posted like I was eliminated on the fourth round because the fight is not an official fight until after 4 rounds. But the fight, if you watch the video, it was stopped on the third round. So it was all like they're all in cahoots. Everybody's in there trying to get money and trying to do something, and then basically they were trying to get money from the fight that I was gonna do also in Dubai. So they were like, "Oh, we can get this fixed, but we need a percentage of what you're gonna make over there in Dubai." And
Wow,
so
wow. A lot of shadiness, like in offering you money, the referee like was asking for money, like $500. That's something you don't see stuff like that happen. That's like some underground, underworld stuff.
well, it was a venue. I'm used to fighting in venues like that. I fought in Mexico. I fought in a lot of venues like that. But that was a whole different scenario. Like over there was like so sketchy. Even the guy that set it up, he was being sketchy, this and that, and we should have seen it coming. We should have seen it coming. That was my fault. At the end of the day, I took the fight. Even when I had the opportunity, once they said, "Oh, it's not gonna be the title's not recognized," this and that, I was gonna pull out and I was gonna come back, but I was like, you know what? I'm already here. We already spent time in training camp. We spent money to travel. I'm like, I don't see why it should go to waste. So
But those were signs when it said that the WBA is not recognized. Like those were signs to like like red flags right there. Like okay, like there's something shady going on, right? When they did that, but you as a fighter and you want to stay busy, you override that, you circumvent that in your mind. You think I just want to be active, and but then those are lessons learned. Like you have to see what happens with the if they reverse it, right? Because they hopefully they do reverse it because it wasn't a fourth round, right? It was third round, right? Wasn't
yeah, but they're not gonna reverse it. Like I've already pretty much appealed it many times. I've sent them the evidence. I've sent them everything. Before they took a couple of months to even post the fight because supposedly they were investigating the whole thing. When the fight happened, it was in October. They came and posted the fight literally the first week of December, and that's when they started asking for the money of the fight in Dubai and this and that, and then they would basically talk about it and basically get it off. And I'm like, that's freaking. I'm
they
like,
want
I'm done. I ain't gonna do nothing. I ain't gonna worry about none of that.
they want a piece of the pie of what you're
Yeah,
getting.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, there's a lot of shadiness. I feel that as long as you know that it was corrupt and if they don't change it, you know that you don't have that loss on your record, and you could take that as experience, as a tip on your shoulder.
I do, but I also look at it as, as you also got to look at it from a modern boxing perspective, from a business perspective. It definitely hurt me.
Yeah.
I lost doesn't define my career. It doesn't define me, And at the end of the day, I'm giving it to God. Like I'll put it in God's hands. Whatever He wants to do. It's His will in my life over everything. So that's all I can say. Training camp was supposed to be a great training camp. It ended up not being the best training camp. So there were several things leading up to it that it definitely I should have taken all the signs. I was even reading the Bible in the book of Proverbs, chapter 21. God was speaking to me through that, but at the time I wasn't really understanding it. And now that the situation happened, I'm like, wow, God, I didn't see it, and you were communicating to me. So I'm like, oh,
Hmm. There was a message God was trying to tell you that day, but you wasn't receiving it completely, right? Oh wow, that's powerful, man. Because that happens sometimes. God tries to tell us things, and we don't always listen to everything right away. Because like it's just a lot that God wants to tell, but we just prepare ourselves, and then there's things that get in the way that may inhibit like our ability to receive everything that God wants to say. But I'm really proud of you because you're showing that you go through adversity and you overcome, and there's a purpose in God. Whatever's meant to be bad, God turns it into good, and I believe that you're gonna have a huge testimony when everything's said and done. And I wanted to ask you, so do you feel like more comfortable at your weight? Like, do you feel like staying at 147? And because you know the landscape is really huge opportunities to make money in that landscape right now. So, what do you? How do you see it?
I definitely like 147. I felt comfortable, during training camp. I felt great. My uncle Trinidad, he's been telling me for years to go up to 47 when I was fighting at 35. He's like, "You're too tall for 35. You're too drained, this and that." And I was like, "No, man, I feel good, But once I moved up to 47 and I listened to what he had to say, I was like, you know what? He was right. I feel way better at 47. Feel more comfortable. At the same time, it was like I thought it was more like a pride thing because he was a champion at 147. So I thought, oh, maybe he's looking at it like, oh, I should become champion at 147, this and that. But
Keep the
when it
legacy
came
going, right? Kind of like keep the tradition going with the family.
Yeah, keep the legacy going. But then I really looked at it and I was like, you know what? No, he's right. He's just telling me, he's like, it's better. Literally, it's my walk around weight. Like right now, I'm 147 walking around, and I'm comfortable. I'm eating whatever, like which I shouldn't. That's one thing I struggle with, which I shouldn't eat whatever, but
Yeah,
um I'm comfortable right now. That's one thing he tells me. Is like when you gotta deprive yourself of foods and you gotta stop eating things that your body wants. He's like, that's not a good sign. He's like, but if you're eating whatever your body's craving and you're training and you're in good shape, you're still close to your weight. He's like, that's your fight weight. So I'm like, I see what he means now.
that Tito Trinidad is very, very wise. I'm a huge fan, and his advice is a great advice because he's been through it. And for him to say, like that's your weight because you walk around in that weight and you can eat whatever you want and still make weight. Your metabolism's still good. You still could do it. Why not? And a legend like Tito Trinidad telling you that's huge. To have in your corner like that. Like somebody like
It,
your family.
It's big, it's big. Sometimes, to me, everybody sees him like Tito Trinidad, and like, oh, champion of the world. I see him like my uncle. I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's not that I don't respect his accomplishments, not that I look up to him. Like, he's the main reason, one of the reasons why I started in this. But it's different when your family is like, oh, like it's not a big thing, everybody is like starstruck and you're there like, dude, I prank this dude all the time. Like, what you talking about?
We talking about Willis. Like, yeah, you know him. You know him personally, and man, I love Tito Trinidad, man. I'm a huge fan. He united my family. I know I told you in the previous video, and it's an honor for me to have you. And I would love to interview Trinidad one day. God willing. Like, I really, really like love him. I would like.
Like I said, you'll definitely get the opportunity, even like how I go to freaking Chicago and hang out with friends, I go to Puerto Rico a lot. So once I get over there to Puerto Rico, I'll let you know, hey Tony, I'm with Tito, let's do an interview.
Appreciate you, man. God bless you. I really appreciate you, man. Um, I could almost cry because I feel like if Tito Trinidad, if I interview him, I'm gonna try my best to keep my composure and not get overwhelmed and cry, because like I really love what he did for my family and the way what he accomplished, as a fighter, and what he did for Puerto Rico. But I feel like this year, I'm
Mhm.
curious. Are you gonna be active this year? Like, you're gonna have more fights? Like, what do you see yourself doing this year? Like, so far.
Honestly, right now I step back for a little bit. I'm looking at the landscape. Once this fight in June or July happens, then I'll be able to say, you know what, I'll be able to stay busy. I'm also maybe looking to stay in here in the Colorado local area, do a couple of fights here locally, and then go back to the big world stage. I don't know, it just is depending. If I see by June, July they haven't said nothing, then it's looking like I'm gonna go into the local Colorado area and basically stay, do 5 6 fights within that time of the year. That way the next year comes around and I'm ready to get ranked for like a world title or something like that. Because I don't like sitting. Last year I was supposed to fight 3 4 times. It ended up not happening. Things didn't work out the way that it should have. So I've been sitting around for too long in the years. But at the end of the day, I also know that it's God's plan. My timing is not God's timing. Because I've seen a lot of crazy things happen in this sport, and opportunities for fighters like us to have 12-1 or 12-2 or 14-0 records are getting world title shots when before you needed at least 30 fights to 40
Yeah,
fights to even be
back in
considered
the
for a world title.
90s and 80s, you had to earn your title shot, and it's harder for like people coming up to actually fight because it's all a monopoly now. Now it's like if you don't have a name, you don't have a good promoter. It's like they don't want to fight you. They want to fight the big name, and they want to fight somebody that's already established with a big company, and it's who you know. And it's like it's not fair because then it doesn't give the fighters that are coming up like they come from the rags to the riches, and right they don't give those fighters the opportunities. So yeah, it's kind of unfair.
It's no longer the poor man's sport like it used to be. You know
Oh,
what I mean? You used to be able to come up, be broke in boxing, not have no money to pay your trainers, or not have no money to get your equipment. You were just working out with the equipment they had at the boxing gyms. I remember growing up in Puerto Rico. That's how it was. I didn't have equipment. I would just use the government issued equipment that they would give to the gyms, and that's what I would work out with. You
limited.
know, but back in the day, you used to be able to come up from nothing, make a name, and out of nowhere you become rich because you
And that's
became the
beautiful.
best fighter.
And that's beautiful because it shows the rags to the riches process of how you become successful. They don't want to show the process of success now. They just want to show everybody the glamour, the glitter. But
Hmm.
that's not real. They want to promote the fake, the AI, artificial.
Well, look at for example, like this is no shot to Devin, and if he takes that as a shot, I don't really care,
Yeah, that's what
but look at it, the fact that Devin pretty much manipulated the sport in Mexico, paid a whole bunch of things,
mhm.
basically made a name for himself in Mexico. Then now it became a thing that now to fight in Mexico, if you're coming from the States, just for you to get a spot on the card, you have to pay, and you don't get paid. So it's like, well, what's going on, And then you go to like Dominican Republic, other countries like that, same process. Now you need money to build yourself up as a fighter. Now you need the best equipment because when you go train, if you don't have winning or if you don't have certain gear, people don't look at you the same because you're not a flashy, good looking fighter.
Yeah,
None of that. So it defeats the purpose.
they made it about money, and they messed up the underground, like coming up from the bottom. They kind of like gatekeeping.
Yeah.
They do.
Roy Jones was actually talking about it in an interview, and I'm like, I was agreeing with him 100% because I'm like, man, the
He's,
sport is not what it used to be.
yeah, he's smart. He's a smart brother, Roy Jones. Man, I'm a fan of his too. Like one of my favorites as well. But
Man, I remember when he came to Puerto Rico to pa jugar gallos con Tito. He was playing roosters with Tito in Puerto Rico.
oh
Yeah,
man,
he
you
has
did?
fight roosters. Roy Jones has fight
Yeah,
roosters
yeah,
too.
he's country too, so he likes that like he used to raise roosters too in Florida, I think, in Pensacola. I just
Yeah,
remember that. Wow, you brought me back to that time when because he used to show the videos like in HBO. They used to show him do that. So
yeah.
they had a lot in common. Like they even if they fought and they had so much in common, they became friends, right?
They're good friends, yeah. Like when I was at the Box Fan Expo in 2024, I was FaceTiming with Roy. I called my uncle and they started talking. Roy told my uncle to come to the Box Fan Expo. So hopefully this year we get to see him there. If not, we'll see because I've been trying to get him to come through too. So
Yeah, he stays more like more private, right? He doesn't do a lot of interviews all the time. It depends, right? He don't really do that.
he does interviews, but to get a hold of him, it's kind of tricky. Even for me, like when I get a hold of him, I just go straight to his house and talk to him face to face and all that. But when I try to reach him over the phone, he answers. It's a hit or miss 50% of the time, or if he misses my call, he'll call me back.
Okay, he gets caught up with family, right? A lot of times, right?
Not just family, but with he does a lot of events in Puerto Rico, nonprofit events for charity and all that. And one thing is that he gave his life to the Lord, so now he spends a lot of time in church, a lot of time reading His Word. So, and I was actually I was one of the things that I told him. I'm like, when I study my Bible, I'm like, even if my phone rings, it could be speaking Bob Arum, it could be whoever it is. I'm like, they can wait because I'm like, my time with God is more important than anything else. And
That's
people
real.
people might even think, oh, this dude's lying. Like, oh, how is he gonna turn down a call from Bob Arum? What I always say, if it's meant for you, even if you're spending time with God, especially when you're spending time with God, He'll make it to where they'll wait and they'll answer the call and you'll have His favor with you. But if it's not meant for you, then it's not meant for you to answer.
That's so real, man. What you just said is so powerful because it shows like your dedication and your priorities. Like you're not about the superficial. You're not about honoring man. You honor God, and a lot of people they don't know how to distinguish that. Even the ones that say that they're Christian and they believe in God, a lot of them when push comes to shove, their actions don't reveal their true faith. And we're not perfect, but I know that what you just said is big and is a big testimony for somebody else. And I noticed in one interview that you did, you spoke in Japanese. I was impressed. I was like, what made you learn Japanese and how fluent are you in Japanese?
So I learned Japanese because I wanted to go to Japan, Tokyo, Japan for the 2020 Olympics. I'm a big anime fan, so I'm the jockiest nerd you will ever meet.
Oh,
I'm pretty fluent. I can have a conversation. Like I used to talk with Linares, Jorge Linares in Japanese. With Honda, his old promoter from Japan. I used to talk to him in Japanese. Teshi Nagasaki, another guy. He was the guy that did the exhibition with Floyd. I helped him get ready for that fight with Floyd.
I remember that.
Um, it's I learned Japanese because that's one thing that I love. I plan on retiring and moving to Japan. Japan actually has a big Puerto Rican culture too, and that's what people don't really realize.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. My cousin lives there, Carlos. He knows
Yeah,
martial arts. He married a Japanese. So like
yeah,
my cousin Carlos lives there. Shout out to my cousin Carlos. He's in Japan.
right.
Wow, I didn't know there was like that. There's a big community of Puerto Rican
It's
culture.
it's big, they have like Japanese salsa, but like they sing in Spanish, so that's the thing. Like the Japanese people will sing in Spanish. They Man, it's huge over there. It's huge. The community, the Puerto Rican community is getting bigger in Japan. But like going back to what you were asking me, I'm pretty fluent. I can speak it. I can't fully write it yet. I know how to write certain words in katakana and hiragana. But as far as reading it, also I still struggle a little bit reading it because like I understand some words. Some words is harder. And you read instead of from right to left, you read from left to right, and you write from left to right also.
And the way they drive over there, they drive on the left side in the steering wheel or the right?
Yep, left
Left.
side. I mean, a lot of the cars in Japan also there's a little bit of a mix now because it used to be just the left side. Now there's a lot of American made cars also over there. And in European cars, that's where they come with the steering wheel on the left hand side. Um, but also with the Japanese local cars like your Toyota, your Honda, and all that, steering wheels is a hit or miss because they make both cars for America and cars for the Europe. So they have steering wheels both on both sides. So whichever way they prefer to drive, that's what the way that they go.
Yeah, England is like that too. They have the steering wheel on the left. They probably modernized.
On the left side, yep.
Yeah. Do you train with your uncle Trinidad like frequently or like or sporadically? You know.
Whenever I'm in Puerto Rico, that's mainly when I go train. Actually, one of my biggest things, because so my uncle Tito, he's like, oh, to him, he's like, not to him, but like to everybody in Puerto Rico, he's the biggest fighter in Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah.
So, but one of my second coaches is Ivan Calderon.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm like, with my uncle, I don't get starstruck or nothing like that. But when I met Ivan, I'm like, dude, I'm like, now you're training me. I used to watch you when I was a little kid when you fought Nelson Diepa and this and that. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
got starstruck and people were looking at me because everybody was hanging around and looking at my uncle and taking pictures of my uncle, and I'm one of the only ones that's freaking out over here taking pictures with Ivan and everything. Everybody's looking at me like, dude, you okay? I'm like, I see this dude almost every day. I'm like,
It's a different mindset. Like he's related to you. It's different, but it's that shows humility too. Like like you're not like like you're not overemphasizing Trinidad just because he was so huge, because you have a humble attitude. You don't have like an arrogant way about you, and then people that would be superficial and arrogant, they would play that role like, oh no, I'm not gonna pay attention to Calderon, but and look at Trinidad like this, like like just for the look, for the image, and you got your head on your shoulders. You're a very intelligent brother, and you're very humble, and you wasn't raised with your mother and father, right? I saw in the interview.
yeah, I was raised by grandma and grandpa. So it was my grandpa and my grandma, the ones that raised me, basically took care of me and gave me everything, and I'm extremely grateful to them for everything that I have, who I am now. They showed me the way of God since I was little, meaning, like the word says, teach your little ones how to go in my way and they shall never depart from it, and that is very true because it does not matter if I backslide or if I fail or things have happened in my life. I've always came back to God. He's been the number one priority in my life, Definitely what I have, the shoulders and everything that you say is not even mine, brother. It's God that has given me the wisdom through life experience, through situations and just seeing the love and how people treat you and what people do, like I've met some of the most humble world champions, for example Jorge Linares. Linares, other than my uncle, to me was a big thing being able to hang out with Linares in his house. Baby, when I had my first son and we did a baby shower, he wasn't able to make it, but afterwards he came and he gave me a blanket set, he gave me some diapers, some things like that for my son, and all that stuff like stays with me, because he didn't have to, Yeah, at one point I remember me being in Vegas, he let me use his Porsche, his Jeep, and like I was they drove us up to the mountains to go run, but then coming back down, he like literally let me drive his Jeep, and like one time he let me drive his Porsche, and things like that. Some people are like, "Oh, it's just a car." To me, it meant a big thing because those are his cars, his property that
Jorge,
he worked hard for.
Jorge Linares did that.
Yeah,
Why he's very humble, very very humble. Manuel
very
Navarro.
humble. Lo vi de nuevo in Chicago when I was in Chicago for the Golden Boy fights. When Jojo Diaz was fighting, I forget his name. Ah, black dude from Texas.
Oh man, it's like
Ruru, Ruru.
this was in the '90s,
No, no, no. This is like literally. This just happened not too long ago.
not too long ago. Okay.
The fight that happened between Jojo Diaz and Ruru. I forget. They call him Ruru. I forget his name, man. I blanked out. He fought Devin Haney and lost to Devin Haney. Pro Grace. There you go.
Oh, progress, progress.
Yeah,
Okay, program.
I was over there
Oh,
watching my boy Oscar Duarte also fight Hitchens, and I was like, oh, it was a good fight. So,
yeah,
well,
he didn't get
not
the fight.
Hitchens. I forget his name. He looks like Hitchens.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah,
Africa, they call him Africa. But
yeah.
yeah, he pulled Oscar Duarte pulled not Oscar Duarte, Hitchison pulled out. He said he felt sick. So like he really they say that he's just saying that. So I don't really know, but uh, where could they? I wanted to ask you one more question. How do you say I can do all things through Christ in Japanese?
So, so God is kami. So you would go like kami no ah. See that I'm rusty on that one. I know it's kami no ga. I have to get back to you on that one because I'm like, oh, I'm when it comes to scripture, it's kind of tricky.
It's
Cause
different. It's
like
different.
for example, like if I'm saying I'm Puerto Rican, I'm hi genki desu ka Puerto Rico cara des, so I'm like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, like nice to meet you. Or like, like gomen nasai, like excuse me, like there's different wording, especially when it comes to scripture, is a little bit different. Cause like
Different.
I'm very particular of that also because the word says you should not add or take away. So I'm like, let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's tricky with that. Yeah. Yeah. Where can they actually follow you? I know you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's where you're at. Like there's like a little breakage in the signal, but um,
I don't know.
where can they follow you? Like, tell everybody that follows me on my channel where they can find Joey Borrero. He's gonna fight in June or July.
So you guys can follow me on Instagram at Boxing Joey, on YouTube Boxing Joey, and on TikTok as Joey El Hijo de Dios Borrero. That's my boxing name. And everything I do is to glorify God. Glorify the Almighty. So
That's great, man. Amen. So you've been checking out my music. You said you heard my music. I don't want to talk
I
about
I
music.
heard your music, bro. I've been scrolling because I don't follow a lot of people on Instagram. Only people that I know personally. So your stuff is popping up on my Facebook and on my Instagram, and I was like, "Oh, bro's going in for the music." I'm like, he's putting in that work.
What song was it? I'm curious.
No me acuerdo. It's that I no me acuerdo cuál fue, but I was like listening to it, and I know I was like, I think it was like una de think it was a rap song, I believe, because it was in English.
Oh, it was in English.
Yeah,
Was it from the new album, Mi Patria Linda? Because I got
I,
like a new album.
I think so. Yeah, because you were announcing it that you were gonna drop your new album. Yeah,
Yeah, that's my latest album. Just talking about what's going on in Puerto Rico, the United States colonialism, all that stuff. I don't want to get too political, but I just wanted to let that out of my system because I sing and I rap, and I just felt like the people in Puerto Rico they're going through a lot, so I just wanted to like just convey that message in that whole album of Bomba and Plena.
you have talent, brother. You have talent, and there's a reason why God gave you those gifts. And don't just. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm Christian, bro, and I don't mean to be overly religious, but maybe you should try to do some worship, like some gospel Spanish music, all that, bro. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
you
got an
don't you
album.
never
I got a
know.
gospel album. I have a
Okay.
gospel album.
Oh,
Tony
I
Also
haven't
for Christ.
listened. You gotta send it to me. I gotta
First
I
album.
gotta check it out.
This is my first album that I put out. The first album that I ever put out was a gospel album, Tony Also for Christ, the autobiography. So, and then everything else is not gospel, but I speak the truth and I don't curse in my music.
Yeah.
And anything that's creative is of God as long as it's clean
Yeah.
and the truth.
Like there's nothing wrong with like having regular music that does not curse or nothing like that. There's nothing wrong with music in general. I've seen people that have cussed and everything in their songs, but it's the
Yeah,
message that comes behind the
the
song.
message.
That's what I always tell people. Because like me as a Christian, And as a Puerto Rican, I was torn apart with the Bad Bunny halftime show. You know, because I was like, oh man, as a Puerto Rican, that's my people. You know, I love my people. I support my people. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
100% behind them. But as a Christian, I see the
yeah.
lyrics, I see the stuff going on the show, and I'm
Thing.
like, man, I can't stand with that. I can't support that. I'm sorry.
I don't support that, but I support that he's bringing awareness. But I don't support everything that he says because like it's just a line you got to draw. Because the guy that I support is Elisha Molina because he's bringing awareness of self sufficiency. Like the Act 60 and protecting the beaches and etc. And he's fighting for Puerto Rico. And he's not a politician. He's an independent senator, and he was voted by the people and the paper vote. And they try to take him out of the data, the voting system of the data, because they know that he's trying to make real change for Puerto Rico. And he wants Puerto Rico to have an economy of production, not an economy of consumerism that the United States exploits, the tax exemptions they benefit from it.
Well, not just that, but like Puerto Rico, we get used up for a lot of things. For example, people don't realize that minimum wage in Puerto Rico is 7.25. People like I talk to a lot of Mexicans, a lot of different Hispanics. You know, my wife is Mexican. You know, but I talk to a lot of Hispanics from different ethnicities, and they say, "Oh, Puerto Ricans, we're privileged, this and that, because we're Americans." I'm like, bro.
Not
I'm like,
true.
you ain't seen half of it. I'm like, we grew up in the streets, you know, freaking playing descalzos. You know, we don't have money to buy expensive stuff right away. You know, it takes time, sometimes years, for people to save up to be able to come and visit the United States or visit family. You know, especially with Luma and everything going on with the power in Puerto Rico. We don't have power. There's very limited water. There's places where you have water for like 2, 3 days, then they shut off the water, and now you're out of water for 2, 3 weeks, and now you're waiting on this tanker that brings water to the community to come in to fill your buckets and fill the water cisterns. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I tell
Yeah,
people all the time.
there's a lot of laws. Like I don't want to get too political, but like there's a lot of laws that are created to benefit the outsider and not the local. And then then the outsider they get tax exemptions, and then the corporations of the United States they profit while the rest of Puerto Rico, the local Puerto Ricans live poor. Not all, but they
No,
struggle.
but most of them a good amount. Cause look, for example, like this is one thing. I went, so I was last time I was in Puerto Rico when I was over there for my fight. That was in 2024 when I fought over there. I was over there and I was at my grandma's, you know, staying over there. Everything was good, you know, but there was no water. Power was coming in and out, and we live in El Campo. We live in the countryside over there, so it's kind of rough. And but then I went to San Juan to and then El Condado, and I was staying at the hotel that they were gonna do the fights in, and water, heater, light, everything. But then you would go out to Carolina, and then there was places even in Carolina that didn't have no power, had no water. And I'm like, okay, so these people are not giving water to the people that live locally or power,
No,
but everything's going to these cities where there's a lot of tourism and everything.
yeah, they go where the wealthy people are. And all the politicians in Puerto Rico, they're in cahoots with the politicians in Congress, and they work together with the United States government, and they sell the island. They keep promising statehood with the PNP party, and that party is in cahoots with the United States government, whatever benefits the wealth of the United States. But the locals get screwed because then they get pushed out, everything goes up, and then the local agriculture can't compete with the imports of the Jones Act law. So it's like they have to raise the prices, just and they don't really flourish the agriculture because it's competing with the Jones Act, the 85% import, which
Yeah.
only benefits the United States and people outside, but not the locals in the island. It's sad though. It's really sad.
It's sad
But
because like even one thing I noticed is like, and you know, I know we're getting a little bit, but it's like since we're
yeah,
talking about the island, these are things that need to be talked about. You know, for
yeah,
example, a couple of years ago, houses in Puerto Rico, local people were selling right after the hurricane. They were selling properties for $20,000, $30,000, houses for super cheap, houses that before would be like here in the United States would be like half a million or $1 million houses. They were selling there for 50 to $20,000. The people from the United States came, they bought all the houses, which I'm not mad at, it's just being smart, but they bought all the properties, bought all the houses. Then the Puerto Rican people that ended up selling those houses for 20, 30,000, they came out here to the United States. They think, oh, I'm gonna be able to buy a house and be able to start over. Then they realized, dang, I just sold my work, all my life's work, for literally for me to come over here to the States and be able to live comfortable maybe a year, and not even comfortable with 20, 30,000. That's only like a year's worth of rent, and then they gotta figure everything out.
Yeah, like what the Puerto Ricans got to do is they gotta make sure that they protect their land and they don't get displaced. And those laws are not, like the voting is not even binding. Like for Puerto Rico to be a state independent or Estado Libre Asociado is basically a monopoly for Congress and for the United States. And they keep Puerto Rico in limbo and they keep promising the same thing, like Albizu Campos said, le sigue la rueda corriendo y vamos a culpar los políticos. Porque los políticos, they work together in cahoots with whatever benefits the United States. So they're not representing the pueblo, the people. They're representing the financial capital. So it's a really hard situation for us to be in like that because we're really like we don't have no voice, and we basically can't even create laws. We could present them with a resident commissioner, but we can't create laws because they said in the insular cases that we have alien races that are not white, that we don't deserve the blessings of free government. It's in the insular cases, and we're still under it. So they basically look at us as property, and that we could be displaced of anything that we own because we're not represented in Congress. And basically, we can't create laws. We have to go to the United States Supreme Court, and that they represent the laws, but we can't do it. We could, but
Yeah.
they don't allow us because the insular cases they have us on. But I don't want to get too deep about that, but I really enjoyed talking about it with you. I didn't think I was going to talk about that, but my music, I talk about it on that album and Unite the Tribes, Free Puerto Rico, and I got an album, The Prodigy of Albizu Campos and Mi Patria Linda. But the other music that I'm putting out is universal. It's for everybody. It's like love songs. I got maybe 3 political songs, but everything else is love songs, reggae, dancehall, R&B, salsa, Afro beats. So that new album, The Essence of Who I Am, I dedicated to my mom, and she passed away. And I didn't grow up with my father, but I tried my best to be respectful to him. And
Yeah.
your story really touched me because you give people hope with your success, in spite of not being raised by both your parents. You got your grandparents, and that's a great testimony for people like me too, and people that grew up similarly. So I admire you for what you do.
No, thank you, brother. Like anybody could do it. I tell people, I'm like, if the first thing, like I used to tell, so I met my mom when I was 15 years old, my real actual blood mom. And, now you see her on Facebook commenting, oh, yo te apoyo, I've been there from the start. And, and I mean, no disrespect to her. I mean, like, I don't say it from a bad place, but when I was coming up as an amateur, I had no support. She wasn't paying for a lot of things. I was going to the gym for free because the coach, me and him, I worked out something where I was helping him out, and helping him teach classes if he let me use the gym. And they saw a lot of potential. But she used to tell me, oh, like, for you to make it in boxing, you gotta be one in a million, to make money, be rich, and take care of your family. And I remember I told her, I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to work hard and be that one in a million. Didn't disrespect her, didn't tell her nothing. I just told her straight up that. And even now, I'm happy and I'm proud because now she's little by little, she's starting to go to church. She's leaning into the ways of God. Me and her, we went through a lot. I had a deep hatred towards my mom that it came from a lot of abuse and different things that happened throughout the years, but I forgave her. And what I got to tell people is like, no matter what you're going through, who you're arguing with, what you're doing, remember that in the book of Revelation, God says that He will wipe away every tear in our eyes for one last time. But when it comes to that, you have to remember, why is it one last time? Because yes, we will experience life without punishment, without sicknesses, without death, all of that, which is beautiful. But there is one key thing that I always tell people: remember that you're also gonna see that last time that He's gonna wipe away the tears is gonna be because there's gonna be people that you knew, family members that you had close to you, people that you wanted them to get to know God, and yet they decided to go their own way. They decided to not listen to God, and those people, sadly, they're gonna end up being judged and cast down to hell. So they'll experience God's love, God's grace and glory. They'll get to see it for that little bit of time that they're there getting judged, and then they'll get cast out. So it's our job as believers, as their families, as their friends, to give them the news and to tell them, to give them everything. So my bad. I see, yeah, you're busy over there, bro. My
No,
bad.
yeah, somebody was passing through. I just said, yeah, somebody in my family. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that story. It's really impactful. It speaks to me. It speaks volumes to me, and it makes me reflect. I'm not perfect. I fall short. But at the same time, when you say those stories like that, that when we actually meet God in judgment, that we're gonna actually feel a little bit of the peace. But then right after we get judged and we didn't do what was right, then we're not gonna feel that peace no more. So it's something to think about.
It's tough, bro. It's tough because what I even talked to it to my wife. Here in America, we call ourselves Christians, and a lot of us do have a relationship with God, but we also got to remember, being Christian, there is things like the church in China. In China, you get fed to tigers if you get caught with a Bible, or if you're serving God. You get put down to the lowest of the score systems. In the Middle East, you get decapitated, you get killed for serving God. And back in the forefathers, like the first people that pioneered the churches, they all died for what they believe in. They all died for believing in God. And here in America, we don't have to go through that. But there is going to be a time where now we're starting to see that Christians are starting to get persecuted. I mean, every other religion you can participate, they don't make fun of. But the only person that they do make fun of and they do always persecute and say something bad about is Jesus Christ. So that has to tell me that that is true. That
Yeah,
religion that
it's a
that
threat.
is true.
It's a threat because the truth is always going to be like sharp, like it's going to offend people, and then people are going to get threatened, feel like threatened. People like that have power and they want to keep doing wrong. They're going to attack it because it's going to stop whatever they want to do. So they're not going to allow it to flourish. That's why the truth is not praised as the way it used to be, but they want it.
Mhm.
People desire it. People want it, but they just don't receive a lot of it because now it's like AI. Everything is
Mm.
keeping information. Now you got to read books, so that way they don't take the knowledge away from you.
It's like you with your music. I'm pretty sure you have said some things that on some your rap albums or rap songs that has been true, and then you get somebody criticizing, "Oh, damn, bro, why you say that?" or "Why did you say
Yeah,
what?"
yeah.
So
I
it's
keep
kind of like that. It's like that. People don't want to hear the truth. People are okay with you as long as you're not telling them the truth. And then the truth in the word of God confronts you. The Bible says that it's like a mirror. When you look at it, you either have the choice to change what is convicting you, or you have the choice to walk away and ignore it and pretend like it's not there.
Yeah, it's like the truth. It pervades. People desire it. yes, there's people like you, me, that we can't sleep at night if we're doing something wrong. Like we feel like we have a conscience of what we're doing and we fall short, but we try to connect with God all the time and say sorry. But there's a lot of people that like like the new generation, the Alpha, the Generation Z, they're not appreciating the truth the way we did, the way the older generation did, Generation X. But we saw a lot of things before the digital AI, a lot of they want to control the frequencies so they could control us. And they want to make sure that they gatekeep the information so you don't know what's really going on. But I always make sure that I read everything before this happened. Like I was preparing myself for it. And that's why I stay connected to the truth and I try my best and I put it in my music. And I feel like a lot of people are hungry for it, but the mainstream is not allowing it to flourish the way it should. They won't promote it. So you got to be
And
independent.
that's the way that it is, you know. Like I've talked about it. I did a message not too long ago on Instagram and Facebook, and it gets deep into it, you know. But I believe that AI is what the central banks are, because the central banks basically control everything. But it's what the central banks and everybody, all these governments are going to use to usher in what we consider and what we call the antichrist. There's a lot, you know. I dropped the preaching on it. You guys can go check it out on my Facebook, Instagram. I don't want to get too much into it here, but I'll definitely, like, in these next couple of days, I'm gonna send it to you, and then we can talk about it, you know, because it's something that people need to hear. It's a message, you know, and I'm like, maybe you can do like something about it in a song or something too. So who knows?
I appreciate you sharing. I didn't even think we were going to get this deep or political. I was trying to avoid it, but I felt like everything was flowing naturally and supernaturally. And I felt like the frequencies were there. Like we were like like one puzzle together. But I want to just say thank you. It's an honor. Um, Joey Borrero, check him out. He's going to get a fight possibly in June, July. Subscribe to my channel. Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. Subscribe. And I appreciate you, Joey Borrero. I got nothing but love for you from the bottom of my heart.
Samir, Tony, tú sabes cómo es esto, brother.
Me encanta como tú eres. Y, vamos a hacer lo siguiente y me dejas saber. Y de Tito Trinidad, mandarle
Dale,
saludos de
dale.
todo.
Yo
Y
voy a
la
estar en Puerto Rico. Estamos planeando de que voy a estar o para noviembre o para septiembre. So, ya cuando llegue allá, estando allá tranquilo, que yo hablo contigo, hey, mira, tengo un amigo mío que quiere hacerle una entrevista contigo. Él no te va a decir que no. He never says no for things like that. So,
Dios te bendiga, Joey Borrero, te quiero mucho de todo corazón.
dale, ya tú sabes, Tony, igualmente, brother. Tú tienes mi número, brother, tírame, que yo veo que veo que me tiras por Messenger, tírame por teléfono, tranquilo.
Ok, yo tengo el número tuyo, lo tengo. Pero por si acaso
Ya,
me lo manda de nuevo, pero tengo el número tuyo guardado, lo tengo. Y
dale,
quiero dejarte
dale.
saber que gracias por apoyar mi música también y compártela si quieres. Tengo un álbum cristiano y tengo música real, tú sabes, que hablo de lo que es.
Sí, sí, sí. No, claro que sí, mi hermano, claro que sí, que Dios te bendiga, ¿ok?
Te bendiga, te quiero. Mucho de muchas.